Hello everyone, my name is Egehan Kırıcı. I am the founding director of Ancient Peacock Studio. Today I will be talking about hypercasual project management. So let's begin. First, let me go over the structure of the presentation. We will briefly discuss what is project management, it's very short, and then we will go on to why project management matters, project management approaches and how they evolved within time, modern principles and their complementary methodologies. Then we will have a closer look to Agile principles and Scrum methodologies. Then we will move on to the hyper-casual industry requirements and existing project management solutions. Then we will move on to tailoring existing solutions to your needs. Then I will be talking about some key takeaway points and provide some further reading materials as well as some softwares you may need for your project management purposes. So basically, project management is managing resources to accomplish a certain goal within a set period. So there are three key points here. One of them is resources, the other one is goal, and the other one is a set period. These are what defines a project. A project has limited resources, a goal, and a set amount of time. And after it's completed, it's finished, unlike a process or a program. So it's an often made mistake. Don't mistake processes with projects. Processes are things that you do over and over, and they're just loops. They don't end. And also don't mistake programs with projects because programs can consist of projects, but they are not projects. Programs are a much larger structure consisting of multiple projects. Simply, a project has a start and a finish. So it can be like delivering your game prototype to a publisher. It can be a project. Iterating it for increasing retention. This is another project. Or like creating, even implementing a process is actually a project. Think of it like that. You will implement the process once and then you will stop implementing it. You will just apply it. So creating and implementing a process is also a project. So why project management matters? First, it provides clearness, focus for the team. Everyone knows what they need to do, when they need to do, and often how they need to do it. It improves collaboration because effective project management also defines way of communication, and this increases collaboration within team as well as the previous item, the clearness, also helps increase collaboration. It allows managers and CEOs, boards, General Assembly members to measure the performance of the projects. And also it is important to measure individual performance too. It is important because it opens way to improvement within your workflow, your existing workflow. How does this happen? Because you can measure it, because you know what you did before, and you can now improve what have you done before. Since you have measured it, since you know what you did, and now you can begin improving your workflow. It improves efficiency, especially in larger organizations and larger teams. We will get to that in a second, but overall, it improves efficiency because it allows more control for the stakeholders of the project over their own work and the whole of the project. It helps organizational planning. So many studios, even though they are small, they don't only develop games, they have other things to do, such as planning their 5-year, 10-year, 3-year, or 1-year future. And effective project management enables organizational planning too. Also, it enables cost reduction, since we will get to that in a second, but since you know what to do, you are planning ahead, and it eliminates loopholes and fallbacks and setbacks, therefore reducing costs. So when you should apply project management? Let me ask you a question. Is a true and detailed project management necessary at every stage of a studio? Basic simple answer is no. For example, for self-managing small teams, especially if they're working independently from other departments or other teams, it is not really necessary. But when a studio grows, working on multiple projects at the same time with interchangeable teams, things can get out of hand very easily. So here are two examples. The left one is a studio, the right one is another studio. So if you're a team of 2 or 3 or 4, like working on a single project, you may not need detailed project management at this stage. It might even slow you down, like taking notes, reporting, entering time. It might seem unreasonable, and it may be unreasonable. But consider the scenario on the right. There are a project manager working on all the projects. There is a creative director working on all the projects. There's a lead as well as a game designer working on all of the projects, a level designer working 3 projects, a junior developer working on 2 projects, another junior developer working on a single project, and another one working on a single project. A 3D artist working 2 projects, another 3D artist working on other 2 projects, a motion designer working in all of the projects, and a UI UX designer working in all of the projects. A concept artist working only in 3 projects, some interns working on different projects, and they have different deadlines or they started at a different time period. So imagine a scenario like this. Because hypercasual game development and game development in general is an iterative business, you need to effectively try and see your product yourself with your stakeholders, with your product owner, with publishers, and especially, if possible, have test it with actual users. Then decide on other features, and there are many things that can go wrong in a project. And if you cannot keep track of it, and if you don't know which task is dependent to other task, when some feature is asked to be added, you don't actually have a way to estimate how that will affect other projects or that existing project that the feature is requested. So after growing, every studio will eventually need an effective project management. So we will discuss how. First, I want to give a brief understanding of project management approaches throughout time, how it evolved. So in 1910s, there were Gantt charts, and until 50s to 40s, waterfall method was dominant across all industries. So basically, it's a product-oriented approach. It's often used for mass production, especially effective if no customization is required by the user. And also if every feature is predetermined like a construction project. An architecture designs the project, even the quality of the cement that is going to be used in that particular wall is predetermined. So it is reasonable to use a Gantt chart or a waterfall project. Basically, it is I will do this, then this, then this, and after that, and we will complete the project. So you don't go back and look if it's good or if it's bad. You just implement what's written and then move on to the other parts of the project. However, this was not very effective and outdated very fast. There was the age of Kanban during 50s and 60s. Toyota made this famous, and for a very good reason. They dominated the whole automobile industry and took over it from Ford, an industrial leader, just by not just by but mainly by changing their project management approach. So Kanban is a Japanese word. It basically means a pinboard. It is a still a product-oriented approach, but with added customization. It provides mass customization. So some of you may know the saying Henry Ford once said, You can have your Ford any color you want as long as it is black. So what Toyota did, Toyota disagreed and told you can have your car whatever color you like. So what enabled them to do this? Kanban method. It is a more it allows more customization and more agility within teams. I won't be getting into too much detail, but it's basically a list of things that will be done that are being doing right now and things that have been completed. So it's a to do, doing, done list kind of thing, but it's much more comprehensive where factory workers move cards from a board to another board. And the project manager can see visually what is happening, which part will be required by the other manufacturer or the supplier. So it helped Toyota become a global figure in the automotive industry, and it became a norm in many industries. Then there was the Scrum in 1986. It is focused on product customization, it's a user oriented approach, and it's inherently iterative. What iterative means is looking at what you have done and trying to improve it for the better. So basically, it's not every feature is predetermined. Features are added, tweaked, or deleted during production based on customer feedback. Then there was Agile principles. We will get to the difference in a second, but let me explain first. Agile principles came to existence in 2001. It's a manifest written 12 principles in that manifest. But it's a set of principles. It's not a methodology. It doesn't say how to do project management. It's more giving an idea on how to approach project management as a perception, how to view projects. Its focus is on improving efficiency and collaboration in competitive user-oriented software development environment. So it's mainly used by software companies, especially software as a service companies, and alongside with Scrum mainly. So a detailed look at more modern principles and complementary methodologies. Agile principles, as I said, there are 12 of them. I will not list all of them. Basically, I summarized all of them. It's focused on customer satisfaction and frequent working software delivery. Self-organizing motivated teams communicating face-to-face whenever they can. Sustainable and continuously improving workflow with frequent communication with other stakeholders. Quality-oriented, simplistic development approach. These are Agile principles. So, Scrum. It's a set of methodologies for iterative software development. It can be used for other development types, even mass production facilities. But nonetheless, it's mainly dominated software industry. Then there is Scrumban. There are many variances of Scrum, but mainly used Scrumban. It's a mixture of Kanban and Scrum. It's a more visual way of applying Scrum using as the previously mentioned board. This says the tasks that are to do, doing, and done. The board can be changed, of course, according to your needs, your team's needs. So there's also Scrum of Scrum. It's for large teams, large organizations that still want to keep agility and apply Scrum principles to entire departments or organizations. So it's basically uh, taking apart the company into smaller organizations and applying Scrum all over again. So let's have a closer look to Agile principles and Scrum methodology, what they are and how they help people. As I said, Agile is a set of principles, not a methodology. It's a way of perceiving project management. Scrum is a methodology on the other hand. So you can think of it like that. Agile is a set of principles and Scrum is a way of applying those principles in real life, which inherently complements Agile principles. Many people confuse that Agile Scrum came after Agile. That's not true. Scrum was before Agile Manifest. So basically, Scrum has a set of Team structure, there's a product owner that ensures that the product is meeting expected qualities. There's a scrum master. It coordinates the team, and it's his or her job is to make sure that the team is functioning on its own, and if any help is ever needed, he is the one to consult and advise. Then there is the development team, the team itself. Sometimes Scrum Master and development team can be interchanged, and someone within the development team can be the Scrum Master. So basic Scrum workflow is consisting of three parts: planning, sprinting, reviewing, and then planning, sprinting, reviewing. It's like a loop, a cycle: planning, sprinting, reviewing, planning, sprinting, reviewing. It's structured in a way that puts user first. So there are user stories. Then from those user stories, you create product backlogs. And from that product backlogs, you create sprint backlogs. So sprints are basically, uh, think of them like the name suggests. Sprint, a short, high effort run. But it's not a marathon. You don't run and run without stopping. You stop, you'll take a look back, and if you are doing something right or if you're heading to the wrong way, you just change direction and you continue moving. So sprints are when actually project is being made. Then comes the Scrum's notorious meetings: sprint planning meeting, daily Scrum meeting, sprint review meeting, sprint retrospective meeting, and backlog refinement. I won't get into detail in all of them. There are many resources that you can look at. I would strongly suggest. So basically, sprint planning is for planning the sprints. Daily Scrum is, as the name suggests, it's held daily. It's mainly 10 to 15 seconds, 15 minutes, and it's often made on a standing setting, not on a sitting setting, because people want it to be short. But on a remote environment, there's nothing to do. Then there is a sprint review meeting, whether you accept the result of the sprint or decline. If you decline, the sprint restarts. If you accept, you start planning the next sprint until the final sprint. And the final sprint is actually the release sprint where you finish your project. And the backlog refinement is for larger organizations. Even smaller organizations can use taking a look at the backlog and seeing what has been done, what has not been done, if the team is performing well or not. So let's get back home and see how we can apply those principles and methodologies. So there are certain requirements, as we all know, in the hyper-casual industry. We have short development times, mainly from 1 week to 2 weeks. You develop a prototype, you develop a retention version, a monetization version in 1 to 2 weeks. So it's really fast. It's ideate, test, iterate environment. It's an iterative cycle. It's feedback and data-oriented dynamic backlog. What that means is that things to do, your to-do list is constantly changing with each feedback and with each data. It's a B2C model. You are reaching out to end users who are consumers, even if they don't pay for the game. They are not businesses; they are consumers, and the ones who actually play your game are those end users, consumers. So, reasonable question here is to ask: is Scrum applicable in a hyper-casual game development environment? And why is that a reasonable question? Because Scrum is inherently came to life due to the nature of software as a service business. So there are many differences and in underlying motivations to Scrum and hyper-casual industry. So there are a few challenges to applying Scrum in hyper-casual. For example, optimal sprint times is 2 to 6 weeks. And that won't fit with the nature of hyper-casual development cycles. You need to finish your project in 2 weeks. And often project consists of multiple sprints because at the end of each sprint you take a look back and see what you have done so far good, if the features are requested by the users if they feel they have completed their needs, and if any feature requiring to be added. Also, it has a lot of meetings, and if you want to apply Scrum as the way it is, you will have a trouble like having to do many meetings in very short cycles. That's also because of the nature of the hyper-casual development and its fast development cycles. And one very important point is that game is a creative product. It's not as B2B product. So software as a service business may go to their users and ask, okay, do you want this feature in your accounting software? Who is going to use this software? What access do you need in that software? What buttons do you need? Who will be using this in your organization? You cannot do this, go to the audience and ask what kind of a game do you want. So you cannot create user stories based on users. That's a very big setback. And again, for in the same context, hyper-casual environment is much more iterative than software as a service business. So how you can tailor those existing solutions to your needs? First of all, you need to understand that each studio has a similar yet different approach when it comes to project development. Therefore, each studio has somewhat different needs. First, you need to understand your studio's needs, your needs, and the underlying motives of those approaches that Scrum, Agile, Scrum, and that the ones that we have talked before, and tweak the necessary parts suiting to your needs. For example, you can use player stories instead of user stories, but you cannot go and ask the players what kind of a game do they want to play. Do they want to be the hair black or do they want it to be yellow? So you have to wear the player's shoes and act as the player and create player stories instead of them. You can maybe make cumulative retrospective meetings. That's what we do in our studio. So instead of going over each project when it's finished on a like 6 hour meeting, at the end of the month, go over each project and then decide what to do on next project. So the logic behind retrospective meetings is looking back and seeing what you have done right, what you have done wrong, uh, applying what you have done right to the next, to the future projects, and dismissing what you have done wrong and not moving them onto the other projects, future project. Also, you can create less participatory sprint planning meetings because people will be working on projects, and if you have a separate project manager, he can take on the task and create sprint plans with a few people, like project development lead and art lead would be enough to create a sprint plan. One other key element in successfully implementing those methodologies and principles into your own workflow is having an interdisciplinary modular team structure that allowing for changes to be implemented swiftly. So what I mean with this is that if you have a modular interdisciplinary team that you can assign different tasks on different projects. Let's say you have a sound designer in your team, and in a game you require certain sound design to be made, engineered. He can leave his work in the other project and contribute to the other project. Therefore, making that change to be implemented much more swiftly. You can also change the structure of the Scrum a little bit. It's not actually changing the structure because already Scrum Masters can be within the development team. You can use your lead developer or ask other developers to be the Scrum Master and or the project manager uh, to lead, act as the product owner to ensure the quality and ensure that everything is going smooth within the project. So there are some further readings that I would like to advise. First is Clinton Keith's Agile Game Development with Scrum. I highly recommend it, although it is for much more stretched game projects like AAA projects or PC projects. Nature of hypercasual is really fast, so you won't be finding anything that specifically addresses this. That's the main issue, and that's why I'm making this presentation on this topic, because there are no actual resources to find on hyper-casual game development, project management structures. You need to create your own. There's PM Book 7, it's pmi.org's book. It's written by very great individuals, professionals from project management industry, and I highly recommend it. I highly recommend everyone who is doing projects to read it. Also, there are some project management softwares that you can use, and I highly recommend using something like that or creating your own software for it. We are using Codex. It's a simple game development project management software. There is Jira, Hackenplan, Asana. You can use many of them. There are many solutions to this. Using a software would allow your team to work remotely while you manage the project still efficiently, as well as in an office. There is online dynamic shareable GDDs and documents. You can create those. I like keeping our GDDs dynamic and shareable and online, because when we update sprints, we also update our GDDs. You can use many softwares. I highlighted well-known ones like Evernote, Notion, Slide. It's great for having the team to take a look and comment on the game design document itself and recommend changes or ask questions. You can also use online communication tools. I'm sure you are using some Discord, Slack, anything that comes to your mind. You can integrate those. For example, Codex integrates with Slack and Discord. You can integrate some of them with each other and have an effective remote uh, way of managing your project. So here's my contact information. If you have any comments, questions, you want to make any corrections, please feel free. You can always reach out to me. My email is egehan@ancientpeacock.studio. Our website is ancientpeacock.studio. And also, you can always reach out to me over LinkedIn. My name is, as I said, Egehan Kırıcı. Also, we are on LinkedIn as Ancient Peacock Studio. You can find us there. I'm happy to help in the way I can. That was all. Thank you for listening. And as I said, if you have any questions, I would happily answer them. I consumed all of my time, so I cannot get into much detail about how to apply those principles in specific use cases. But you can reach out to me and ask if you have a specific case in your hand. I will be happy to help. Thank you all.
Okay, so it's the time for questions and answers now. So let's start from the end. So at the last slide, pre-last slide, about software management tools, which management software is your favorite and most used by you?
We mainly use Codex. It is our main source of project management software tool. We are using it as the whole organization. I believe it's a useful tool. It's really agile, and it's much simpler than the other alternatives. It's more game development, industry focused, and this allows for more easiness on our side for both planning and executing agile projects in environments that teams manage themselves.
All right. And what are the game success criteria in your studio? What is required from studios to meet the major publishers' criteria? Maybe you have some experience for that.
Yes, I can answer that, but it actually depends both on the product and the studio. For if you are going to talk about the studio, what I believe publishers require is a reliable and fast partner that can deliver quality prototypes, and that a studio that can scale them quickly when they became actual games, and also a studio that can ideate innovative and hit potential ideas. Also, studios that can infer data to find solutions regarding gameplay to grind some KPI metrics, like to boost retention, or to decrease CPI, or to boost rewarded ads seen per user, etc.
Okay, great. The next one. Hi, do you have any methods to keep projects on time or shorten the development cycles?
Actually, we are now applying a new method on our side. We have begun using developing a concept prototype. What we want to call is a concept prototype. We spend 1 or at most 2 days on this, and it enables us to better see the product that we are going to develop and better plan it ahead. Some might consider this as a loss of time, but it actually decreases potential to failure. So it really helps in the long term and for the sake of the project to decrease time overall. And also we use, as I said, kind of a Scrum based methodology. So each person can know which tasks are assigned to him or her and when she should or he should complete them. Along with how the project is going overall is reported back to us whenever we want, even daily or weekly. Since we are using a software for that, we are able to track the times, enter estimates, and see how the project is going, if people are estimating right amount of time for their tasks, or if they are not, and how much is the margin of error here, and if that margin of error is persistent, how it is going to affect the overall project and its deadline. If we are going to postpone a project, this enables us one thing, that if we are going to postpone a project, we can in advance warn our stakeholders, that can be publishers or sponsors, anyone, that how much the project is going to be delayed, and that also enables us to eliminate those delays as much as we can.
Okay, cool. The next, what is the best project management approach for a 3-person team that work on the same project?
For a 3-person team, did you say?
Yeah, 3.
I think best project method is kind of using a similar approach to Scrum, but it's hard to implement it in smaller teams. It's still doable, but it's a little bit tricky to do. Still, you have to fill all the necessary roles. A product owner must be present. That's someone with a perspective regarding quality assurance, and that every feature is delivered at its requested quality. So it's hard when the developers are also the product owner. It is possible to make the developers of the project Scrum Masters, but it's a little bit tricky to do them product owners, since it is inherently needed to be separated as 2 different roles in 2 different departments. So I would say using Scrum is a great method for smaller teams, but still that you need to fill that product owner role. Maybe you can, if you are working with a publisher, you can see him as your product owner and treat his words like you would to product owners, and plan your project accordingly.
The next point. Are there any ideas about project management, new methodologies, maybe?
New
ideas.
Can you repeat the one more time. It's a little bit.
Are there any new ideas about project management, new methodologies, maybe?
There are a few new methodologies, but they are still evolving around the existing ones. So there are, as I said, Scrum Bun method, Scrum of Scrum method. There are many Scrum variants there are around the world, and people tend to like the general idea of Scrum. I also like the general idea of Scrum, and many people are trying to apply Scrum to their industries, and each industry is somewhat different to others. So it is inevitable to make some changes, and in time those changes become new norms, and those project methodologies are formed. There are many project methodologies, but mainly they all revolve around general idea of Scrum.
Great. I think great questions, the same as great speech. So thank you much more again, Egehan. So now we have a coffee break, and then we will go on. So stay with us.
See you. Thanks.